It is 6:28.
Oh, good. And I'm Paige Listerud here with Nat Swift and Steve Scott talking about After the Fall for ChicagoTheaterBlog. Thanks for joining us again. So basically, was I going to say, you're artistic director for Eclipse, you directed shows, you've acted in shows. Any new discoveries or revelations that you got out of doing this role, either from an acting point of view or a directing point of view, that you feel you'd carry into future work?
I feel like as an actor, I have kind of figured out some new ways to take care of my voice and take care of my body, because it is just kind of physically, technically, exhaustingly, and
it's a physically rough role too, though. I mean,
it's one of the longest roles ever written.
And there's also a lot of there's fighting that goes on between Quentin and Maggie, who's the character based upon Marilyn Monroe. I mean, it gets quite physical. And
Nora Pfeiffer, who plays Maggie brilliantly and beautifully.
Very beautiful.
She and I have been beating each other up. Both of us have bruises to show for it, but both of us are just having a blast with it. And it comes at the end of the play, so I shouldn't give too much away. Sorry. Spoiler alert. But it comes to a point where both of us are exhausted, at the moment we get there. And so it just throwing all of our energy into that, I feel like, in a sense, both of us feel like we're just leaving everything on the mat, as we get to that. And it's just great. It's exhilarating and it's fun. I forget what the question was about.
But it's a role. I mean, I would think the exhausting part of it is not just physically and technically what you have to do, but psychologically what you have to go through. I mean, you have to watch people die, and you have to revisit every awful, calamitous event of your life, and rehash it and relive it and go through it again. That's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, geez.
Yeah, and emotionally, I think it takes a while to decompress after a show. After the show, and it might take longer than the next day. I might just need the next couple of months after this is done to just kind of decompress. But it's been great to do, and I feel like that's part of the experience, is that exhaustion that hits on all levels, and just how much of myself and ourselves we need to throw into this thing. There's something really exhilarating and really great about that.
I'll tell you what for me is kind of missing from this play, and that is, Resurrection Blues, Arthur Miller just found so much that was absurd, in our current political climate. He couldn't not do something that was just absolutely absurd. So he threw it all into Resurrection Blues. But there are just as many absurdities about the McCarthy era that this play is coming out of, and what Arthur Miller went through when he was just marrying Marilyn Monroe, from HUAC. I mean, who was the senator who wanted just a photo with Marilyn, and then he wouldn't have to go before the House of American Activities Committee? Just something absurd and ridiculous like that. And because he turned him down, then he was put on trial. So, the fact that there's a certain examination of kind of the disillusionment that the leftists that Quentin is trying to defend are going through, lies they told in the past about the Communist Party, and then the lies or the backstabbing that they're willing to do now just to save their skins. There's that kind of disillusionment. I'm kind of wondering why do you think he kind of left out the stuff about Marilyn and HUAC and that whole absurd little thing? Right?
Well, he certainly refers to them, but I think, he actually wrote the play before Marilyn Monroe died, and he saw Maggie as a symbolic figure rather than a stand-in for his wife. But I think he was in the same place that Quentin was in that all of these things had happened, and he wasn't able to separate himself from them enough to find the absurdities. In Resurrection Blues, all that stuff may have happened, but it didn't happen to him.
Right.
And the absurdity that comes from a kind of omniscient point of view, which he really didn't have. And in fact, After the Fall is actually my favorite Arthur Miller play. because I think where he errs in some of his other plays is that he does remove himself so much. And in After the Fall, he absolutely doesn't. And whether or not you like him or not, or agree with him or not, you have to feel the stuff that he's going.
It's very raw,
Yeah,
material.
No, we
Very
talked,
raw.
whenever I'm doing anything, I try to find whatever humor there is in a serious play to try to leaven it. I mean, look for it. There's some, but there's not much.
Depending on the audience, there's some nights where you get
Some audience members find it funnier than others, but yeah, but it's not funny. It's like O'Neill, basically. It's very much like O'Neill.
Am I wrong or right in kind of an assessment that this is the Arthur Miller that has the powerful female roles? Because you've got 4 of them. You've got, Quentin, I mean, maybe this is off for you, but I associate him with Don Draper in Mad Men now, because Don Draper in the series Mad Men on television, he kind of goes through his own personal evolution for the relationships with women that he has, okay? And this is what I see Quentin doing too, from his wife Louise, to Maggie, and then on to Holga, in the end, and then interspersed with his relationship with his mother. I mean, these are like 4 super strong female roles, and Holga's might be the weakest just because she's not on stage, she's saying some pretty important things.
Yeah,
but
she's the link.
Yeah,
she's the object of desire.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, but, is that like, I cannot recall just off the bat, like, an Arthur Miller play with 4 strong, important female roles for this character.
They tend to be overshadowed by the men. I mean, I think Linda Lohman is a wonderful role, but Willie is the one that you listen to. In All My Sons, I think the women are very important, but it's the men who have the struggles that you although in the production that was done last fall, I think Kimberly Singer did a lovely job of really bringing the women out in that play. And A View from the Bridge, I think Eddie is the strong character, although Beatrice and Catherine are strong characters too. But it's a struggle, and in some ways, I think the wonderful thing that the actresses in this play have done in this production is to make these women very real, and they tend to be a little two-dimensional in the way that women are run, especially the character of Louise, who oftentimes is kind of just a bitch. And I think what Julie does so well in the play is to make you understand where this woman has come from and why she's stuck here.
Well, I think that, I said in my review that I thought, on the one point, she seems to be slightly puritanical, going after Quentin about, his attraction to other women. I don't know other women today who would get so hung up about, you're looking at that girl's ass, maybe if it's just too much of a distraction from sharing time with me, but it's kind of like, you're a guy, everything, and you're going to be checking out other babes. But Louise has that kind of puritanical mindset, but she also has a very strong kind of feminist mystique mindset, where it's kind of like, I'm not just your sounding board for all your great intellectual ideas, I have things to say too.
And she's just discovering that for herself, which is what's so compelling. Well, it's interesting because we also see, it was a different era, and women and men inherited things from their culture that are much different from the things that we inherit today. So yes, whereby Louise was responding to stuff that I would never think about today. It shows kind of what the culture did in kind of giving you the wrong signals, and giving these characters kind of impossible standards to live up to. And that's one of the things that Quentin does.
That is one thing. I mean, Quentin is supposed to be kind of this everyman figure that guys can kind of hook into and, go through the process of his life, okay, and what he's been through. And at the same time, he's very intellectual, He's also got a really strict moral standard that most guys don't hold themselves to, and yet it really bothers him. He really has a conscience that won't allow him much leeway for fallibility, I mean, is that something that you feel makes the character a little inaccessible, or doesn't, you know,